The indefatigable Jim Martens has joined me today on Punching Sideways. How you going, Jim?
I'm well, thanks, Josh. How are you, mate?
I'm very well. And for a non-Riverina / Upper Murray local, you have certain touch points with the area, which is interesting, and we'll probably get to those because we'll eventually get there, but you're playing a show here soon as you're the musical incarnation of yourself. But I was hoping maybe we could go back and talk about how our lives have intertwined at different points. I think I first heard about your good self playing an acoustic gig as my former band, a Candela. And from memory at the time, you were playing in a group called Fields of Rain. And
that's right.
It's something I've felt terrible about ever since, is I don't think I met you guys that night at all. I just heard all about how great you were.
Yeah.
Like the next day, you shouldn't have left. We met these awesome dudes. Oh, this guy Jim, and we've met Leon. They're great. And I'm like, oh, great. So I left and didn't meet them.
What is funny about you saying that is that night at the Long Room, I was that busy talking to people that I didn't actually watch your set either. I heard it.
I did. I actually did watch you guys. I just didn't meet you guys afterwards. When apparently that was when all the good stuff happens.
It was a good night. It was a lot of fun. We came up because it was Star Assassin. The guys from Star Assassin, Josh and someone else, the singer. It was a Star Assassin gig. They did an acoustic show. Candela was acoustic, and so were we. And that was our first acoustic show. We hadn't done one like that before.
Yeah, same with us at the time. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
And then we played again together at the Evelyn Hotel in Melbourne, and that's when we all met properly. And I remember that gig because we were standing there watching, and when you guys had finished playing, Leon looked at me. I'll never forget it, and he said, "See that shit? That's the bar. That's the bar that we have to reach as a performance quality. You know, that we are plebs compared to these guys. These are golden god emperors, these fellas, and we need to be able to play as good or better than that every gig." And we did, and we strived to. Like, we really pushed ourselves because of you guys. You inspired us.
Well, we definitely sold you guys a bill of goods there somehow.
That's it.
It sounds like it's hard to know really where you're at as a band when you're actually in it, because sometimes you get so focused on what's not working, you don't actually know if anything is working. Because I was always probably the dark force in the band of thinking that things weren't as good as they should be. So to hear anyone say you guys actually were half decent, it still rings a little bit funny to me, because I was so focused on us not being good.
I think that's why we get along so well, because I'm the same.
I think so.
Exactly.
We're equally disappointed with everything.
That's it. But we're the complainers of the world make it a better place, I reckon. But that's the thing with complaining, is that if you're complaining and you're not actually offering a solution, then you're just whinging, and that's rubbish. But if you're complaining and you go, this is how we can do something about it, or how do we grow from this, how do we learn from this, then that's productive, and that's far more efficient.
There was one show, Jim, in between that I thought that, and I remember what happened that night, but I don't remember how it fits into the chronology of when we played. We played a gig in Echuca, and I have a feeling that was the first time I'd seen you guys play as a full band. But maybe the Evelyn show was before that. But
the Evelyn show was the full band, but Echuca, our singer Daniel Niglias, he couldn't make that gig. It was at the Terrace Hall Hotel, and
yes.
So I ended up singing on that gig. So it was just the four of us. That was a good show.
Yeah, that was awesome, and it's funny thinking back. That was the first time, I think Leon already knew, but that was the first time you found out that I didn't like Carnival, Cog, or Dead Letter Circus, or Butterfly Effect. And I remember the look of disappointment on your face is burnt into my eyeballs. You just weren't willing to hear that.
The feeling of disappointment was burnt into my soul.
You might have thought I was worth being around.
There. It's still there. I don't get that whatsoever. It's blasphemy.
Yeah, I can't explain it. It's just a feeling in my gut about bands, and I don't get it from any of them. But then I remember the only look you've ever given me that topped that particular look in Echuca was a couple of years later when I told you that I really loved the new Carnival CD, and I don't think many Carnival fans liked it.
It was at the time. It was. I think that album was it was definitely a grower. Like you had to really listen to it and think
Yeah.
about it to appreciate it instead of the
And
straight up.
the thing was that I actually really liked it, and all you guys thought I was just trying to have yous on.
Yes.
So I still couldn't win. I'm like, I actually do like this.
I remember you said that. You're like, this album's not bad. And I went, you're joking, mate. You're joking.
I copped that from several
that album's
people.
great. That's a fantastic record. Yeah. Speaking about your music though, like The Beauty in Detail, that's on my phone. I listen to that regularly still. It's a fantastic song. Good. Rudy killed it. There's some notes in that and you're just like, how can you do this? He's like 4'6", you know, guy from Uruguay. He speaks Spanish and stuff, and there's this big, massive story that runs the whole way through it, and he's just belting it out. But I've noticed that a lot of those singers that do have powerful voices tend to be shorter. Have you found that? Or is that just something that I've made up in my head?
Well, I mean, classically, I think you're probably right on, because short, thick-set people seem to, like those operatic notes particularly, they seem to get hit by people of that stature, like your Ronnie James Dio and those sort of people that just hit massive notes. Were never really that big.
Yeah, Freddie Mercury, Maynard James Keenan, they're not tall fellas.
No.
They're just bored. I don't know how they get that, all the way up there.
Well, Rudy's going to be all the way up himself if we keep talking about him in the same breath as Maynard and Freddie Mercury. But
Rudy's
fantastic. I love you, brother.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love Rudy too. He's unreal.
Do you find that when you listen back to your old music, that if you give it enough time, like for me, I've just gone back to The Beauty in Detail for the first time in the last couple of months because we're planning to, hopefully, if everything works, we're going to come back and play a few comeback shows.
Oh.
And hearing the album as though someone else wrote it, and it wasn't a big stressful thing that I was involved with, it made it sound a lot better to me than what it did when it first got released.
So you're hearing what we hear. Yeah.
All I could hear was, with that song we were rushed because the road fell away on the way to Wagga, or the weather. That was when the studio flooded, or that's when we all went to Geelong and it cost us a fortune, and it was like -5 degrees. And like I couldn't hear anything but the story behind the album, sort of thing. And then now when I listen to it,
that's a beautiful thing, and I think that's my favourite part about, especially bands like Fields of Rain and Agasia. Those two, it was the trips that we did, and it was the times that we had on the road. Like in Agasia, there was one time we were playing. It was like this Battle of the Bands type thing at the Espy, and we would travel down. We were always on Sundays and stuff like that, and one of them ended up happening on Mother's Day or something like that. It was a Mother's Day or a Father's Day, and we travelled down, and no one had told us that the gig had been postponed. No one knew. So we drove from Bendigo all the way down to St Kilda and got there and waited, and like the place didn't open, like it just wasn't on. It just didn't happen. So we wasted an entire morning.
Just for someone that's based around, say, Albury, which is. But if you were to drive from the centre of Albury to St Kilda, you're probably looking at the better part of 5 hours, let's say. How far is Bendigo to St Kilda?
Oh, I don't know, 2 hours, if you're lucky.
2. So it's not like it was a half an hour drive down the road.
The Bendigo's an hour and a half on the Calder from Melbourne, greater, but traffic going through, getting through that tunnel, all that sort of. Oh, you don't have to go through the tunnel, would you? You go Kingsway, but that's a busy road, man. Takes a long time to get there all the time, but that's what I enjoyed, like the stories of traveling and doing things on the road. We traveled to Wagga Wagga because Fields of Rain recorded the EP Clarity at the same place that you did with Dave Wilson with Magic Faders, and we were driving there. I remember we stayed in this hotel in Wagga Wagga, and the drummer Aaron and I were in the same room, and he just would not go to sleep. Like he was just hyper, and I'm like, shut up, I want to go to bed. We've got a big day tomorrow. And he's cooking dim sims. Like he left the room, and he came back half an hour later with a bottle of scotch and a bag of dim sims. And he started putting dim sims in the kettle and boiling the kettle, and then just eating dim sims and drinking scotch. Like, oh my God. That was stressful for me, but looking back on it now, it's fucking funny. and I enjoy that sort of stuff.
Yeah, if only someone could pull you aside as a young musician and just tell you, don't get too focused on the next thing. Just try and enjoy this thing. Because, like, not every band is going to have some big illustrious career. The majority of bands are just going to either have really good stories to remember or not good stories to remember because you were so focused on other shit. And that's probably one of my regrets, is I didn't really appreciate at the time, particularly with the Candela lie. Don't think I was very present a lot of the time in what was happening at the time. I was always thinking about the next thing. I know there's people that I probably didn't speak to for as long as I could have, or I was stressed out. Like, I remember we played in Bendigo, and it would have been one of the last of Candela Live shows, and I think maybe you were singing with a really technical, progressive metal band with a really good guitar player, I think, from memory. And I was so stressed out that night, and I don't even remember what it was about. I remember having the shits that I was the only non-smoker, and I felt like I was getting left inside at the merch desk when everyone was outside. But looking back, I'm like, wait a sec, I'm angry because I didn't fill my lungs up with carcinogenics. Like, that's not something really to be that upset about.
No,
like, I don't know what, but I remember being fucking furious about it. That I was like, why am I the only non-smoker? And why is everyone around the band also a smoker? Like, this is 2013 at the time. No one's a smoker. But apparently I was in the minority there. But I think back, I'm like, I could have just relaxed. And if I had just went outside and said, hey, I'm a little bit bored inside, guys, do you reckon one of you could come in and hang out? That's all I would have needed to have said, instead of being an absolute dick about it.
Yeah, I don't remember you being a dick about that because I was busy. I put that gig on. It was, Fractal, Candela Lie, and the Solonicos.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And you also put on what could only be described as one of the most epic breakfast runs the next morning at the house you're at the time. And that was magnificent. God, that was good.
Right. Yeah, you came around for barbecue. That's right. You got to do that after the gigs. The bacon and eggs and stuff. Man, that'll win a musician over any time, any day of the week. And especially if you are asking your mates to drive from wherever, Albury to Bendigo is about 3.5 hour trip, play a show, and you guys got stuffed on the set too because you played last. You played after us and the Solonicos too. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been better to put you maybe second or first even. But to ask you to drive all that way, you can't do that and then make bugger all off the door because you're playing other bands. And then, you got to send you off in style, dude. You got to say thank you somehow. That's the right thing to do, mate. You look after your mates and they look after you. The best way to do that is with bacon and eggs.
I remember it was so satisfying that even though we went to the bakery in Echuca, which I can't remember. Is that a Beechworth bakery that's in Echuca?
Oh, it depends on which bakery in Echuca. A big 2-story building.
Yeah, the big 2-story one.
Yeah, that is a Beechworth. There's a car out the front. Car, yeah.
I've never been in a Beechworth bakery without buying something. Yep. Even if someone rolled, like something fell out of my shopping bag and just randomly rolled underneath a table in a Beechworth bakery, I would have to buy something if I stepped over the boundary. And that bacon and egg feed was so satisfying that I'm pretty sure that I just bought an iced coffee and that was it.
Well, that's good. That's an honour.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't even an ice break at the time, which I used as a food replacement back in those days.
I drank a lot of iced coffee, but especially when I was working in construction, a lot of iced coffee every morning and stuff. I don't like energy drinks really. Although now I'm addicted to Red Bull, but back then it was iced coffee. But I always found they give you mud butt, and that was no good.
They
ruined production.
They do tend to do that. That's why I got off them as well. So let's maybe bring the conversation back to Albury Wodonga if we can. Hopefully Jim will be able to come on in face to face at some point in the future, and we can do a longer episode. But the main point of today is to talk about the fact that you're coming to Albury to play a show. So.
That's right. Wodonga, St. Ives.
I will include the details in the post, if you're listening to this, for where the times and who the other artists are, etc. I was just more fascinated about knowing the type of music, because you and I had a conversation last night now, just about just to catch up, and you mentioned the style of music and also that you've got to drop a baritone acoustic, which is fascinating. So can you just describe to the people listening what type of music it is and what they can expect and how it might be different to if you were to play with your full band?
See, this is a question that I get asked a lot. What kind of music do you play? What type of music is it? And I always have a very hard time answering that question. It's rock. You call it rock. For argument's sake, you'd call it alternative rock, I suppose.
Yep.
So the type of music I'm going to play on Wodonga, is that what you want to know, or what type of music is it in general? Or
well, just if it's different to what you would normally play with a band or
well, it is. Yeah. So it's called the Melodious Acoustica Tour. It was started actually off the back of this event called Tate Fest, which happens in my hometown of Bowen in North Queensland every year. It's this year is the third installment, I suppose you'd say. That event's a very special one, so I'd like to talk about that too, if I may, just for a little.
Yes, no, you can.
Sure. So Tate Fest, that was started in memory of this mate, a friend of mine. His name was Nicholas Tate, big music guy, excellent dude. So he was that one dude, in the small town, everyone knew him. He was everyone's best mate. He went to the Conservatorium of Music in Mackay, all this sort of stuff. And he ended up passing away because he got a melanoma. And he passed away a few years ago now. And they've created this event called Tate Fest in his honour. And they raise funds for the Australian Melanoma Research Foundation, I think it's called.
Yep. So
we do that. And I've done that every year. The first 2 years I did it Born on the Stone. And this year I'm doing it as an acoustic show. So they asked me to come back, and I thought, while it costs a lot to fly up to the Whitsundays, so I thought I'll add a show in Mackay as well the night before. That way I'm actually, spending my time wisely instead of bumming around. And then it kind of snowballed, and I kept adding gigs. And then I got this gig in July, and I thought, now let's fill the middle. And Albury was the second town on my list, apart from Bendigo, from where I lived. Because Bendigo's always up there on the list, but Albury's always the really high up there. Wodonga. So book this one. Your mate Daniel Caulfield was instrumental in helping me get it all set up too. What a lovely bloke he is.
He tends to be instrumental in getting most things set up these days. So
I still believe firmly in your supposition that he has like this army of people who will defend him to the death.
Yes,
if you ever say a bad word about Caulfield,
I've seen it happen in myriad situations. People know Dan, you don't even realise know Dan, and I'll take a bullet for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's a lovely bloke, man, and got so much time for him too. And he's brilliant, beautiful. So is his partner Tara. They're lovely people. So help me out, put this gig on, and I don't know. There's something about Albury that I enjoy. I like going there. It's a nice town. You know what I mean? There's plenty to see and do and stuff, and all the people I've met there have been nothing short of phenomenal.
So with the music scene has gone through a little bit of a revival recently around here, and part of what's been driving that is there's been this weird mix of lineups with original bands mixed with cover bands that are playing specific like genre music as opposed to top 40s.
Mm-hmm.
As in, they might play alt rock metal stuff like Killswitch Engage and Disturbed and bands like that, and that's all they play. And they might play on a lineup with actual original metal bands.
Right.
Or there might be a goth rock band that plays with a tribute band that plays music by Van Halen or something. Like it's hard to describe, but there's a lot of buzz around the music scene because people have relaxed their view of maybe what can make up a lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if that's just the power of things like YouTube and stuff like that, where the idea of playing a cover's not the evil that what it probably was for you and I 10 years ago, where those types of lineups don't mix, cover bands and tribute bands and original bands.
I remember that, and it was like that. I was not really big on covers at all, but when it was happening, when you do a cover, it should be obscure or something that means something. But you kind of open yourself up to. I've opened myself up definitely to the ideas of that kind of stuff. But we would play in Bendigo, like especially places like Music Den. You would have acoustic rap, then fucking some guy playing the drums and singing Tool at the same time. That was it. And then you'd have a rock, and that happened a lot back then, all different kinds of stuff. And it works, especially, and that's why I kind of like enjoying like the music that I play, being alternative rock. It's kind of like a Helmet sort of chord progressions, nearly with pop vocals over the top. That grunt, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of
sounds
works
pretty
well.
interesting.
So you can open a show with an acoustic artist like that. If you've got and you can ramp something up. You have an acoustic artist that plays that kind of stuff, that drop tuning sort of, heavy, and then you move on to a rock band, and then you can have something heavier after that, and that kind of works. But I've played gigs. Like I remember playing an acoustic gig and supporting a band called Toxicon. They're a great metal band, a progressive sort of metal rock. They're fucking awesome, those guys too.
Yeah, that's a good name too.
But it works. Do you know what I mean?
There's obviously, from what I'm gathering from how you describe the sound, there's a bit of a darker, maybe tonality to some of the music, so it can slide into those more metal-y genres a little bit. Is that why you decided to go for the baritone acoustic, which maybe you can explain to people what that is? Because when you explained it to me last night, I was freaking out a bit.
It's I've always found that playing, because Fields of Rain was in drop D, and I had trouble singing along to that, and I like the drop C because you can be melodic and heavy at the same time. Do you know what I mean? You've got that option. I think there's more range in that tuning, especially when you're using distortions and effects and things like that. So Born of the Stone was drop C stuff, and it's all written on acoustic guitars first, for the sole reason that because I do most of it, pretty much all of it myself. It's easier to do acoustic shows and play those songs on acoustics, and it works, and play them on electric instruments as well. But the whole thing was, I found playing acoustic guitars, like just standard scale guitars, tuning down to drop C, even setting a guitar up and having the right strings, it still didn't give me what kind of the lower end sort of that I wanted. So I thought, I was looking at baritone acoustics, and I just found this baritone. It was an Alvarez artist series.
Okay. Yep.
It's extended scale, and I kind of I ummed and ahed about it for a long time, and I wasn't sure about it because it's so low. It was B2B.
For people that are wondering, when Jim says an extended scale, what that means is that the length between the bridge where the strings go into the body and where basically the nut is, where they kind of go off the end of the fretboard, that's actually longer, and it means that you can maintain more string tension at a lower tuning. So the strings aren't flopping all over the place, but you still got a really low note. Whereas if you put them on a shorter scale guitar, the strings would be basically flopping all over the place, which isn't good for tuning or playability or anything.
That's correct. Yes. So it's like So I thought, let's get and it's got a big fat ass on it too. And I like those dreadnought sort of guitars. Usually I'll play with a cutaway, but this one doesn't have it. But I seem to manage.
Oh, no cutaway, nice
cutaway. So yeah, it's a big fat one. But it came. The standard tuning it is a B2B tuning instead of the standard tuning. So and I play a lot in drop. So I dropped that lower string to A, and I've been playing like that, and I've kind of had to adjust my voice to it, but it works. It does work. So I'm enjoying that as well. It's a lot.
So were you having to force your voice down more than what you were expecting, or you just didn't have to pitch it up as much as you normally would?
No, I had to lower it definitely.
It's very rare to have to do that.
Yes, and it's harder, I found, but it's not bad. I don't mind it. There are some parts, where I'll play a song and it's supposed to be higher, but it doesn't. It works at lower, but it's not as fun to sing anymore. Do you know what I mean? So I'm enjoying it so far. It's pretty good. A lot of the songs that are going to be on the next EP have a droney sort of open chord sections as well, and that works really well on this acoustics.
Oh, well, if folks get their ass out to the gig, they'll get to hear what a baritone acoustic sounds like live in person. So
that's right. Yes. Yeah, come get drop A.
Make sure you come to this gig, people. I'll be plugging it throughout the week. It's August the 2nd at St. Ives in Wodonga.
That's right.
All the specific details about the lineup and opening times and door charges, etc., all that stuff will be in the notes for this podcast episode. A link will probably be to the Facebook event. I'll stick it in there so you don't have to go looking for it. And is there anything you want to leave people with, Jim, in case they don't come to this, about just generally your thoughts on where you're at as a musician at the moment?
I don't know. That seems like a loaded question, is it? No.
I was just wondering. Because talking to you last night, you just seemed like you were much more content with where you were at musically than you ever have been. Or you were back when we used to talk a lot more back in the day.
Yes and no. I'm content with just playing music for the sake of playing music. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I enjoy it. It's something that I like doing, and it's something that I can't imagine ever not doing. And so it's not to me about now like it was in Fields of Rands about getting out there, getting people to buy our CDs, listen to this, what do you think, worrying about what people think. Now it's just these are my songs, this is the art that I've created, this is a piece of me that I'm getting rid of or whatever, or an issue I'm overcoming, and now it's out in the world. And if you enjoy it, have a listen to it. If not, doesn't matter. That's why it doesn't cost anything to buy my EPs. They're all free.
Yeah.
You download them at Bandcamp, and that's just how it is. You want to come to the gig, yeah, you'll have to pay to come and see me play, because we've got to support the other artists who are playing as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They deserve to be paid for their time and their fucking art as well. So, but other than that, yeah, it's just I'm enjoying living life. You know what I mean?
Excellent.
Working, being busy, being a dad. That's
very good.
It's a lot of fun.
A lot of important stuff going on, and it's good to hear that you sound like you're happy, mate. So that's good. So
yeah, man. Yeah. Well, I'm always happy when I'm speaking to you, mate. Don't you?
Yeah, excellent. Oh well, I'll be there next week for sure, unless something untoward happens to me on the roads around here. People are driving like a bunch of fuckwits, but no,
that happens, mate. Yeah, come down to Melbourne and have a drive around in the rain.
Well, I'll be down there soon as I'm relocating in a couple of months. So I might stay off the roads for the first few weeks, I think, down there. So.
Yeah. No, we have an excellent public transport system down here. You don't need to drive.
Excellent, very good. That's good to hear, because I'm planning on parking my car somewhere.
Yep.
Somewhere where L-platers can't practice their reverse parks on it every 20 seconds.
So you take it easy on the L-platers. You take it easy on them. When they're driving, you're like, give them space, let them learn, all that shit. But as soon as you got that P-plate on your cert, get out of the way, you bloody moron. What are you doing? No,
yeah, that's exactly right.
Drive up fast, beep, 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 flash your lights. Come on, let's go. You've got work to do.
Exactly. Righto, mate. Well,
it's good to talk to you, man. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll see you next week. And we'll plug the shit out of this show for you.
Yeah, so. I'm looking forward to coming up to Wodonga and seeing everyone and saying hello and all that sort of stuff. So it's a very verbose tour, this one. So we're going to talk.
Excellent. Nice. Righto, mate. Well, take care, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, mate.